So it's time to start looking now at how we can solve quadratic equations by completing the square. Now, first off, this isn't going to be as straightforward as factorising. It's not as straightforward as using the formula. But it's a good way to practice the skill. And it does have applications later on. So here we go. If you remember, these two terms here are the priority for my bracket, because I can adjust a number plus or minus afterwards. So I want x and I want plus 5, which will give me x squared plus 10x plus 25 when I expand it. So let me write that in red for you so you can see. X squared plus 10x plus 25 comes out of the bracket. Now to make it say plus 16, before I put it equal to 0, I put minus 9 here. So the 25 minus the 9 gives me my 16. So now I'm going to add 9 to both sides to get something squared equals 9. Because my intention is to get something squared equals a number and then find the value of that thing, like so. So now I've got x plus 5 equals 3, or x plus 5 equals minus 3. So I can get two values for x. Over here, minus 2, and over here, minus 8. So let's try and take this to the next level and deal with a trickier one. Okay. So first off, my brackets has got to make these two, so it's x, and if I want 3, I need 1.5 here. Now 1.5 squared, well, do 15 times 15. That works out as 225. So I've got 2.25. So I've got x squared plus 3x plus 2.25. Now I want minus 5 and I've got plus 2.25. So I'm going to do take away 7.25. Now some people will automatically, when they get this term squared, put minus that term and then look above to see what they've got and then put that afterwards. And then they'll combine those terms like that. They'd have done it up here as well. Let's go through that again. They'd have gone, that's 2.25, so take it off because you don't want it, and then bring this down. So we didn't want plus 25, so they'd have written this. Minus 25. Then they'd have looked up here and brought the plus 16 down. Now with the negatives one here, you can see how that would be helpful. Up here actually it was quite confusing. So you have to be careful whether you write it as an adjustment or whether you want to step it out. From here it's adding 7.25, which I'm going to write as a fraction now, 7.25. Then I'm going to write it as 29 over 4. And hopefully some of you are looking at the square root process and thinking, I know why he's doing that. So x plus 1.5 equals plus or minus the square root of 29 all over 2. Because 4 square roots. Then it's x equals plus or minus root 29 over 2, and this 1.5 could be 3 over 2. So take away 3, and if I put it all over 2, job done. This is fiddly, but it's not the principle you're stuck on, it's the fiddly nature. Get the first two terms into this bracket. Work out whether to do it as an adjustment or whether you want to have two values. Make it square of something equals a number. Then find what that is. And then get your two solutions. Okay. Let me give you a minute to look at this one, and then I'll talk you through it. So pause now and see if you can follow my working. So, first off, here's the two key terms. So I got the bracket to show what I needed. Now, minus a half times minus a half, when it comes out of the bracket, gives me plus a quarter. So I did minus the quarter to cancel it out, and then I brought the minus 10 down. The alternative would have been to go, I'm on plus a quarter, I want to get to this, so I'd go straight to writing minus 10.25. It's up to you. So this is minus 10.25, so I added this to both sides to cancel it out over here, but it now is here. Something squared equals 10.25. So whatever's under my finger is equal to plus or minus the square root of this. So there it is. Plus or minus the square root of this. Now I've written it as an improper. Why have I done that? Well done, it's because of the 4 if you spotted it. So I square root the 4 and I get all over 2. I've then got to get rid of this minus a half, so I add half to both sides. So, because it's got the same denominator, I combine it neatly on the end. Now, if you didn't pause and you accidentally ran straight through that, go back to the beginning now and give yourself a chance to think it through. Because this is a tricky topic. You may want to watch these more than once. The reason your teachers and me find this difficult is that if we go too slowly, you'll lose the thread. So repeating is good, and it's not a sign that you've struggled. Now let's look at a new situation where our x squared is not just 1x squared. Our coefficient is 2. Well, I can't solve these, so I'm going to do what? Because I have to get to a stage where I've got that. That's right, I'm going to divide everything by 2, including the right-hand side. And in this case, it works really nicely because everything divides by 2 well, and it doesn't change this side. So it's less work. And then I would complete the square as normal. So what I'm showing you here is, if it says, let's say k lots of x squared, blah, 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 divide by k. Now actually, that shouldn't shock you, because you did that with the first ever time you completed the square. So I'm just going to take a minute to look at with you now. Here you had ax squared. You divided by a to get just x squared. You then took the first two terms and halved this one. You then took off the thing squared and brought down the term. Then you moved these over. You tidied them up. And then you reversed the squaring process and got your plus minus. And this was when you found the quadratic formula, part 2 of this series. And if you haven't watched that, or perhaps you stopped it because it was hard, go back to it now and you'll feel much happier. So, now we're going to complete the square when it says 2x squared, but it's not equal to anything. So we can't just divide everything by 2 and make it go away. What I have to do then is take the 2 outside. Like so. And you might then be wondering, why has he done it in square brackets? Well, think about what I'm going to do in a minute with these two terms. I'm going to put another bracket inside. I need them to look different. So here we go. X plus 2.5 squared. 2.5 squared I'll take off, and then I'll add the 15. So I'll leave that there. 2.5 squared is 6.25. These two combine for plus 8.75. Now in your exam you may be asked to leave it in this format. You'll notice there's no second bracket. So let's put this second bracket and multiply it through. I can leave the 2 outside the first bit, but I can't leave it here, so I have to times it through. And that's my answer. And when we come to look at transforming graphs, this will be really powerful. Now you're doing really well because this is a tricky topic, but I've got one more to show you. If you need to look at this again, do so now, pause, and then we're going to go through one more similar. Okay? Let me cover it up and we'll talk it through line by line. So, first thing, we've got 2, which is not ideal. So, take it outside the bracket and divide everything by 2. Get those first 2 terms now inside an inner bracket. Half of this term. This squares out here, so I'm going to take it off because I don't want it, and I bring down the end term. And you can see this method I'm using more and more as they get trickier and trickier with fractions. Now I've got to tidy this up because it's a mess. So I squared this out. Then I'm going to convert this fraction so that I can add these 2 together now. That's all I've done. Now remember what we said, we can leave a 2 out the front of this, but not here. Now why is it this? 2 times 81 over 16. Ignore the minus for now. Well, that's 2 over 1. So the 2 cancels with a 2 from the 16. And there it is. That's in our format describes. Now that is a tricky topic, lots of manipulation, but you're more than capable. You just need to practice. So good luck.